So it's currently December 23rd, and as of 8 days ago, I've officially graduated from college a semester early as a December graduate. This was such a blessing, especially for my wallet, as I don't have to pay another semester's worth of tuition. But throughout this last semester also came a time of reflection, just thinking back to my time at college, how different events affected my time at college, and how I ultimately grew from day one as a freshman until now as a college graduate. Now, these things that I'm going to be talking about today, these 5 things, are going to be stuff that I specifically learned from attending a Christian college. And I never went to a secular university, so I'm unable to speak on the experience of going to a secular university. But I do believe that these things are not exclusive to a Christian college, but could possibly be enhanced by going to a Christian university. So number one is disagreeing with someone, or disagreement in general, does not make someone less of a Christian. Now, obviously, there are things that all Christians should believe. If you call yourself a Christian, you should believe, such as the Holy Trinity, Jesus dying and rising again on the third day. But besides some of those absolutes, most things you can disagree on, whether it's political, whether it's social. Disagreement on most of those terms does not mean that someone is less of a Christian. Now, that was kind of a culture shock. Not the disagreeing makes you less of a Christian part, but just how different Christians can view different things. The Christians I was around, we pretty much all agreed on the same things. And I wouldn't say that it's stunted my growth, because I believe that I was able to grow in that environment. But then going to an environment where a lot of different people believe a lot of different things definitely was eye-opening. And it also helped me grow in my faith as well, as I was able to see different perspectives. Now, that isn't to say that I accepted every perspective that I saw, but I was able to have my eyes open to different perspectives and seeing why people thought the way that they did. And I was able to have conversations with them, which led to deeper understandings in different areas. And number two, church looks different in different areas. Now, this isn't specifically related to school, but also at Christian universities, I believe most of them at least, they have chapels. So even that experience was different than a church service from back home. Now, the church that I attended back home was vastly different than many of the churches that I tried while going to this Christian university. And I'm going to be transparent with you guys, it was kind of a struggle. You know, especially freshman year, going to a college a couple hours away, not having access going to my home in-person church every weekend, and having to find a new church home was a very difficult process. In the beginning, I honestly would go to a church service and compare it in a way to my home church service, which I believe can be good or bad. Good and saying, I know my church back home is biblically based, has good teaching, has good people in it. But it was also bad in the sense where I was kind of in the mindset of, if this isn't exactly like my church from back home, then I don't even want to do it. And throughout my time freshman fall, it was kind of hard to find a church that exactly fit into what my home church was like. And the reason is because no two churches are going to be the exact same. That's one piece of advice that I can give you. That one's on the house. But seriously, just trying to find a church home at college was definitely more difficult than I anticipated going into. But thankfully, sophomore year, my friend invited me out to a church, and that's the church that I was able to call home since then, and one that I'm still actively able to participate in going to this day. And during that time of trying to find a church home, it took a lot of prayer. It took a lot of, again, opening myself up to new perspectives, and ultimately coming to the fact that, yes, the church that I'm going to be going to isn't going to be the exact same as my church back home, but as long as they're still biblically based, as long as they're still following the principles that make a good church, then I'm going to be able to feel at home at that church and also grow in my faith at that church without it having to be the exact same church that I grew up in back home. Now, this one was a really big shock considering how expensive this school is, but not everyone who goes to a Christian university will be a Christian. That one blew my mind. I was like, we're paying a lot of money here, so I don't understand why you would want to come to a Christian university without being a Christian. Again, especially with how much money you're paying to come here. But then again, I started to think why they may have come to a Christian university. It might have been for athletics. It might have been because their parents work here and they were able to get free tuition, which would have been really clutch. But another thing that confused me would be that sometimes certain people would complain about rules that in my head as a Christian would be like, oh, this is like normal for us to have. But in growing in that, I was able to change my mindset from a confused mindset to a growth mindset where it's like, okay, they may be confused about the rules, why we do things the way that we do. So if they're not a Christian, being in this environment can help them grow in their faith. Now, it has to be intentional, but I also had to be intentional about, okay, if they have questions, it's not like a, oh, why do we do this way? And responding in a way where it's like, well, we just do it because of the way we do. But responding to it in a love and growth mindset and an inviting mindset, in that you never know that they could end up eventually accepting Christ into their lives because of this environment that they're in and because they see the way that Christians are acting in this university. So I mentioned before that you have to intentionally grow in the environment, and that's number 4 on this list, that just because you're in this environment doesn't mean that you'll automatically just grow in your faith. Being intentional about your faith is something that is very important whether you go to a Christian university or not, and that's something that I again reinforced in myself. Just because you're surrounded by Christians, just because you have to go to chapel a certain amount of times per semester, doesn't mean that you'll just sit there and soak it all in by not even being intentional or paying attention. Intentionality is so key. And there are opportunities to grow in your faith at these schools, but you have to take advantage of it. And the great thing about it too is that the people on the campus, they want to see you grow in your faith as well. So they're going to be open and create opportunities, but you have to take that step. And you can also take the step in creating the opportunities yourself. But a big obstacle to this, and something that I also felt sometimes, is that you might feel insecure in your faith. Like you might look around and see, wow, these people have all these scriptures memorized. You know, they're volunteering 5 days a week at a soup kitchen, then going to church, volunteering at their church. And you might feel that they're just better Christians than you. And it's like, what's the point of trying to be as good as them if I'm not ever going to reach that? And sometimes, being completely transparent, I felt like that. But you have to remember that you can't compare yourself to others. This walk that you're on, the path that you're on with you and God, that's a specific walk, a specific plan that you have with God. Now, that isn't to say that you shouldn't be serving others and doing as much as you can, as much as you're called to, in terms of serving others and helping others and loving others. But comparing yourselves to others is a dangerous mindset that you should get out of. And that can be enhanced by being at a Christian university where you're surrounded by people who you might feel insecure about your faith around just because of you see all of that. But again, you want to look towards the inside, which again is not to say that those people aren't great on the inside as well, but also remembering that in your walk with God is not you comparing yourself to someone else's walk with God. And the 5th and final thing, and probably one of the biggest things that I've learned, which was such a blessing, is that going to a Christian university is such a special environment. I don't think I've ever seen people smiling as much as I have been walking around campus. You know, they're smiling, they're willing to help, they're always willing to talk with you. You'll never not have someone to talk to you. It doesn't just go in the classroom, it also happens outside the classroom, like the events that you have, like there's like dances and stuff that we've had where you're able to still have fun with those same people while at the same time not conforming to the world, and you're still able to glorify God at dances and stuff without having to sacrifice your glorifying God. Sporting events are also mad fun. Now, unfortunately, my college didn't have a football team, but still the soccer games, the basketball games, and the baseball games too. As a 2-year baseball player, I have to add that in. But again, like I said before, that the opportunities are available on campus. There's also certain other things. At my school, we had Fellowship of Christian Athletes, which is a great way to meet other athletes and other non-athletes as well on campus who, again, they want to see you grow. They want to talk. They want to create those relationships that can last a lifetime. There's student-led worship. We had at least 2 different student-led worship events per week, so that's also something where there's opportunities where you can be intentional about growing in your faith, which is such a blessing and something that I know that I'm going to be personally missing now that I'm not attending that college anymore after I graduated. And you can also relate to people in the same boat as you. Again, I can't speak for secular universities, but I know specifically at Christian colleges, when you're surrounded by that many Christians who, again, even if you're a freshman and there's seniors who have gone through the college experience, they can pour out wisdom to you and help you grow in your faith and also help you grow in the school environment as well. And it really truly is just a special environment. And I wouldn't trade my 3.5 years at a Christian university to go to any other school. if you've gone to a Christian university, or even if you've gone to a secular university, I want to hear about your experience. Again, I haven't been to a secular university, so I don't know what it's like. But if you're a Christian at a secular university, I'm really interested to hear about your experience there. Or even if you're a Christian who went to a Christian university, I would also like to hear about your experience as well. I just, again, love hearing about different perspectives, love hearing about different people's experiences. And if you're on the fence of going to a Christian university or not, I'd say just go for it. Blessings to you all, and thank you guys for watching.